I made a comic. I spent the last 2 months drawing the first 23 pages of my comic. I also made a lot of mistakes. I wanted to share 4 of the biggest mistakes I made during this whole process, so hopefully you can avoid making them too. First, I want to clarify that I'm just a beginner and this advice is based purely off my experience. Having a good foundation for the look of your character is always a good idea before you start to actually draw your comic. It's important to draw your characters from multiple angles and try to achieve a certain similarity. This makes your story more believable and immersive. For chapter 1, this was basically all the design and concept art I had for the main character. Even those designs were quite different from what I ended up using for the comic. I wasted a lot of time drawing and redrawing because I simply was not prepared well. The same thing applied for the side characters. This is all I had prepared for the character designs. Even after starting the line art, I had to go back and redraw a lot of panels because they just didn't look right. I mirrored some professional art from well-known comic series, and unsurprisingly, they all look good in their original and flipped forms. Having recently made the switch from traditional art to digital art, I wasn't used to flipping my canvas, and that's pretty obvious in hindsight. It was only towards the end of drawing chapter 1 that I started to flip the canvas, and I realized how wrong and lopsided some of the panels were. I really recommend flipping your canvas every once in a while you sketch, so you can identify any problems early on. In hopes of saving time, I decided to switch over to digital art for this comic. I personally use Procreate, but no matter which software you use, there's tons of information online. This is something that I wish I had taken more advantage of before starting. It was towards the second half of my 2-month journey where I figured out that there was a drawing guide in Procreate, which would have been really helpful early on. Things like drawing perfectly vertical lines, but even more so, a drawing guide to perspective would have been really nice to know a little earlier. There's so much to learn when it comes to digital art and making comics in general, and I think it's better to find out about all the shortcuts and tips sooner rather than later. There are tons of different art styles and different ways to play around with your line art. And it's really up to you how you want your comic to look. But the main warning that I want to give you is making your lines too thick. I didn't realize I was doing this until I took a good look back at the pages that I had already drawn. Because of the thickness of the lines, the comic had a cartoonish feel. And it might not be super obvious by these side-by-sides, but I think it really made a big difference just thinning out the lines. So consider the size of your canvas as well as your art style and the brushes that you use when doing your line art. I hope this advice was at least a little useful to you, and just to reiterate, I'm still a beginner, so I also have a lot to learn. If you're interested in reading chapter 1, it is free to read on Global Comics. Feel free to let me know what you think, and thank you for watching.